The golden age of piracy lasted less than 30 years, roughly 1690 to 1730. In that window, a handful of men and women turned the entire Atlantic trade network into their personal hunting ground and terrified the most powerful navies on Earth. Almost every single one of them has been misrepresented so badly by Hollywood that the real stories are unrecognizable. These are 10 real pirates ranked by how lethal they actually were, not by legend, not by costume. We're going off Admiralty Court records, surviving ship logs, colonial governor correspondence, and the testimonies of the sailors who lived through their attacks. Some of these names you recognize, almost none of the truth you know. Number 10. Stede Bonnet. Stede Bonnet was a wealthy Barbadian landowner who bought a ship in 1717, paid his crew wages out of his own pocket, possibly the least pirate thing in recorded history, and announced he was going pirating. He had no sailing experience. Blackbeard essentially took his ship and kept him around for entertainment. Bonnet was captured near the Cape Fear River, cried at his trial, and was hanged in Charleston in 1718. Documented kills, essentially 0. He is proof that being dramatic about becoming a pirate does not make you a dangerous pirate. Number 9. Calico. Jack Rackham. John Rackham got his nickname from the colorful calico clothing he wore. He is famous today for two things: the skull and crossbones Jolly Roger design and the 2 women who sailed on his ship. What he's less famous for is how little piracy he actually accomplished. When a Royal Navy sloop caught up with him off Jamaica in November 1720, most of his crew was too drunk to fight. Rackham hid below deck. He was hanged at Port Royal, and his body displayed in a gibbet as a warning. Legacy outsize. Achievement by a ratio of roughly 20 to 1. Number 8. Anne Bonny. Anne Bonny left her husband for Rackham and sailed aboard his vessel at a time when women were legally barred from maritime work of any kind. When the Navy boarded the sloop, trial witnesses confirmed she was one of only 2 people still willing to fight. She reportedly screamed at the men hiding below to come up and defend themselves. They didn't. She was sentenced to hang but escaped execution because she was pregnant. After that, she simply vanishes from the historical record entirely. What she actually did was extraordinary for the era. Hollywood just removes the drunk crew in the hold. Number 7. Mary Read. Mary Read reportedly grew up disguised as a boy, served briefly in the British Army, and ended up on Rackham's ship either by capture or by choice. Trial witnesses described her as one of the only crew members willing to stand and fight when the Navy boarded. She died in prison in Jamaica in April 1721 from fever or complications of pregnancy. She never went to the gallows. By documented evidence, she was arguably the most genuinely dangerous person on Rackham's crew. That is not a high bar, but in absolute terms, she was tougher than most of her male crewmates. If you're finding the real history more interesting than the movies, hit subscribe. We go straight to the primary sources, court records, colonial dispatches, survivor accounts, and we don't clean the story up. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Number 6. Samuel Bellamy captured 53 ships in roughly 13 months between 1716 and 1717. That is a genuine and extraordinary number. His flagship, the Whydah Galley, was recovered archaeologically off Cape Cod in 1984. It is the only fully authenticated pirate shipwreck ever found. The artifacts are in a museum in Provincetown. They are extraordinary. Bellamy gave speeches about wealth inequality and the rights of the poor. Whether he believed them or performed them for crew morale is impossible to say from historical distance. He died at 28 when the Whydah was caught in a nor'easter. Only 2 of his 145 men survived. He never faced trial. The legend crystallized around the wreck, and the wreck is real. The rest is considerably more complicated. Number 5. Henry Every. In September 1695, Henry Every attacked the Gunslingers, a Mughal emperor's ship in the Red Sea. It was carrying pilgrims returning from Mecca and a cargo of gold and silver worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. The attack was extraordinarily violent. Survivor accounts relayed to the East India Company described hours of systematic brutality. The diplomatic fallout was severe enough that the Mughal emperor threatened to shut down all British trade in India. Every became the subject of one of the first international manhunts in history. A handful of his crew were caught and hanged in London in 1696, the first piracy executions in England. Every himself was never found. He simply disappears from the historical record. He is the one who actually got away. Number 4. Charles Vane. Charles Vane was one of the few pirates who refused the king's pardon when Governor Woodes Rogers arrived in Nassau in 1718. He escaped by setting a fire ship loose at the incoming fleet. Impressive on paper. Vane was brutal beyond the point of strategy. Colonial records document routine torture of prisoners. His own crew eventually voted him out because he refused to attack a French warship. They considered it cowardice. They marooned him. He was eventually recognized on a Jamaican island, arrested and hanged in Port Royal in March 1720. His career featured genuine violence, but also a level of self-destruction that makes any heroic reading impossible to sustain. Number 3. Blackbeard. Edward Teach operated for less than 2 years, from roughly 1716 to November 1718. His documented ship captures number around 40. By raw arithmetic, he is not number 1. What Blackbeard mastered was the psychology of violence rather than violence itself. He tied slow-burning fuses into his beard and lit them before boarding, so smoke curled around his face during combat. Contemporary accounts from captains who surrendered describe giving up without significant resistance, specifically because of his reputation. He found a way to take ships without fighting for them most of the time. He was killed in November 1718 at Ocracoke Inlet by Lieutenant Robert Maynard of the Royal Navy. According to Maynard's own account, Teach took 5 gunshot wounds and approximately 20 cutlass cuts before he died. His head was displayed from the bowsprit. The legend was already forming before his body was cold. Number 2. Edward Lowe. Edward Lowe does not appear in pirate movies. He does not have a romantic legacy. Historians describe him carefully and briefly because the documented record is genuinely disturbing. Lowe began pirating around 1721. Colonial governor reports and survivor testimonies describe a pattern of deliberate cruelty that went well beyond tactical violence. Documented accounts, appearing in multiple independent colonial records, describe mutilation of prisoners, murders of men who had already surrendered, and systematic brutality with no strategic purpose. He captured over 100 vessels across the Atlantic and the Caribbean. His own crew eventually mutinied, set him adrift in a small boat, and he was picked up by a French vessel. His ultimate fate is disputed. He is the answer to what a pirate who genuinely enjoyed the violence looked like. It is not an uncomfortable answer. Number 1. Bartholomew Roberts. Bartholomew Roberts, known as Black Bart, captured more than 400 vessels in approximately 4 years between 1719 and 1722. That is more ships than Blackbeard, Calico Jack, Bonnie, Bellamy, and Vane combined. He blockaded the harbor at Trepassey, Newfoundland in 1720 with a single ship and held 22 vessels hostage simultaneously. He attacked Portuguese merchant ships escorted by a 70-gun warship and got away clean. Here is what Hollywood cannot process about Roberts. He ran his ship with a written code of conduct, articles every crew member signed, no gambling aboard, musicians got Sundays off, lights out at 8, disputes settled on shore by duel, prize shares distributed on a fixed schedule. He was a Welsh former slave ship officer who was taken captive by pirates in 1719 and elected captain within 6 weeks because he was simply the most competent person aboard. He preferred tea to rum. He wore red in battle. He was meticulous and absolutely relentless. He died on February 10th, 1722, when HMS Swallow caught his ship off West Africa. A grape-shot blast hit him in the throat at the start of the engagement. His crew, per their pre-arranged ship's articles, wrapped his body in his sail and threw it into the sea before the Navy could take it. They did not want him put on display. 52 members of his crew were tried in what remains the largest piracy trial in history. Blackbeard has theme park rides. Roberts has a Wikipedia article most people never click on. The golden age of piracy ended because the British government decided it was economically worth the cost to hunt pirates down systematically. Within 5 years, from 1718 to 1722, Vane, Rackham, Bonnie, Reed, Blackbeard, and Roberts were all dead or captured. Each had vanished. Lowe had disappeared. Bellamy was already at the bottom of the Atlantic. What survived was the mythology, and the mythology has almost nothing to do with the actual history. The documents are there, the court records are there. The story that is actually in them is the one worth telling.